Hello and welcome. You're watching the newsroom. Breaking this hour, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has held telephone talks with U.S. President Donald Trump over the weekend. The discussions come as a 90-day deadline approaches for both countries to finalize trade negotiations. Trump has earlier threatened to impose a 30% tariff on Mexican imports if no deal is reached. The deadline falls on Thursday, 30th October, marking the end of the period he has set for resolving the trade issues under the North American Free Trade Agreement. Both leaders are under pressure to reach an agreement. Sheinbaum emphasized the importance of continued dialogue to avoid economic disruption and protect cross-border trade. China and Germany have worked to downplay any rising tensions between the two countries after German Foreign Minister Johann Vadpol postponed his first trip to Beijing. Speaking on the matter, Vadpol has explained that the Beijing trip had only been postponed and not cancelled, with plans to reschedule and engage in dialogue with Chinese officials soon. Let's listen in.
Das war in der konkreten Situation jetzt die richtige Entscheidung, aber für die Bundesrepublik Deutschland ist klar, dass wir ein ganz langjähriges, gutes Verhältnis zur Volksrepublik China haben und die Bundesregierung will das selbstverständlich immer weiterentwickeln. Wir sind jederzeit zum Dialog bereit. Ich plane in der Tat, möglichst bald mit meinem chinesischen Kollegen am Telefon zu sprechen und die Reise dann nachzuholen. Sie ist ja nur aufgeschoben und nicht aufgehoben. Für europäische Unternehmen ist es deshalb zentral, dass wir jetzt rasch nachhaltige Lösungsansätze finden, insbesondere für die reibungslose Versorgung mit seltenen Erden und Computerchips. Und das natürlich auch mit China, mit dem wir weiter eng in einem Dialog stehen wollen und werden.
Vadpol has further stressed the importance of maintaining close dialogue with China, particularly over the supply of rare earths and computer chips, which are essential for both German and European companies. Has also noted Europe's necessity to diversify supply chains to minimize risks, while also maintaining fair trade with China. The U.S. President Donald Trump has called the Japanese Emperor Naruhito a great man after a courtesy call. Trump arrived at Japan's capital Tokyo from Malaysia after attending the regional summit with the leaders of ASEAN and East Asian countries. Trump was the first foreign leader to meet Naruhito after he came to the throne in 2019, continuing an imperial line that some say is the world's oldest hereditary monarchy. Earlier, Trump has received a royal welcome in Japan, the latest leg of a 5-day Asia trip, which he hopes to cap with an agreement on a trade war truce with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Trump had made his longest journey abroad since taking office in January, announced a flurry of deals on trade and critical minerals with 4 Southeast Asian nations during the first stop in Malaysia, and is set to meet Xi in South Korea. Protesters marched through the streets of Tokyo voicing opposition to U.S. President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi. Both leaders are set to meet on 28 October. Demonstrators carried banners reading "Smash the Trump-Takaichi Summit" and "Overthrow Trump and Takaichi," while chanting and waving fists. Some protesters condemned Trump's discriminatory remarks and policies on immigrants. Others criticized what they called a U.S.-Japan effort to prolong capitalism and wage war against China. Police monitored the demonstrations, which included students, workers, and citizens. Protesters carried signs urging an end to the Japan-U.S. summit and calling for peace, The march continued peacefully along central Tokyo streets as participants voiced their demands. Let's listen in to some of the protesters.
トランプが日頃からしている差別発言、女性に対する差別発言だとか、あと移民に対する差別発言、良くないんじゃないかなと日頃から思ってたところ、今日たまたま通りかかったらデモをやってたので、軽いノリで参加してみようと思った次第です。
トランプと高市もやっぱりこの中国に対して、戦争をやることでこの資本主義という体制、帝国主義という体制を延命させようとしている。それに労働者として、学生として、市民としてですね、絶対反対だという意思を示そう。
The Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has welcomed the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer to Ankara, where the two leaders are set to hold talks focused on Turkey's acquisition of Eurofighter jets. The talks will hold a desire to modernize its air force. Turkey has its sights set on the purchase of 40 of the jets, which are jointly produced by Britain, Germany, Italy, and Spain. Search crews in Gaza, including Egyptian and Red Cross teams, have used heavy equipment in Khan Younis today to search for hostage remains believed to be of Israeli hostages killed during the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack. The search is conducted beyond the Yellow Line in areas controlled by the IDF, Israeli Defense Forces. According to Israeli officials, the remains of 13 deceased hostages still remain in Gaza. Meanwhile, Hamas has cited obstacles in the rubble left by the fighting, which makes it difficult to locate the remains. Let's listen into what the Israeli spokesperson, Shosh Bedroujan, has said.
Red Cross, the Egyptian technical team, and a Hamas person have also been permitted to enter beyond the IDF's Yellow Line position in Gaza under close IDF supervision to identify the location.
Hamas had previously transferred 15 of the 28 deceased hostages under the first phase of the US-brokered ceasefire deal, which also requires the return of the remaining bodies. The ongoing Myanmar conflict and multilateral cooperation has dominated discussions at the ASEAN East Asia Summit in Kuala Lumpur. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has urged ASEAN members to maintain their humanitarian efforts and deepen engagement with Myanmar despite the country's ongoing crisis. The three-day summit brings together ASEAN leaders and dialogue partners, including the United States, China, Japan, and South Korea. One of the key topics under discussions is the potential deployment of election observers to Myanmar, with Malaysia's Foreign Minister Muhammad Hassan highlighting the importance of regional cooperation in addressing the situation. This is what Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has stated on Myanmar.
We'll continue to advocate for dialogue over coercion, balance over binaries, cooperation over confrontation. We affirm our stand on global peace and security, for multilateralism and international law. I would still urge colleagues to continue the engagement, continue the humanitarian assistance, and allow them to conduct these affairs of the state of Myanmar through their own national mechanisms to engage with all parties.
Brazilian President Luiz Lula da Silva has marked his birthday on October 27 with a celebration at the 47th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has led the festivities, singing Happy Birthday as Lula cut his cake, with the two leaders sharing a warm embrace. Let's listen in. 10 people have appeared in a Paris criminal court on Monday accused of cyber harassing France's First Lady, Brigitte Macron. The defendants are 8 men and 2 women aged 41 to 60 who allegedly posted malicious comments online about Macron's gender and sexuality. If convicted, they could face up to 2 years in prison. Lawyer Carlo Barusa has said that the posts were tweets and posts considered harassment, but described his client as a serene. The case comes amid wider false claims circulating internationally. The trial continues on 28 October, drawing attention to online harassment and defamation. Let's listen into what the lawyer representing one of the defendants has said.
Les faits, c'est comme les autres, ce sont des tweets, des posts qui ont été considérés comme du harcèlement de Madame Brigitte Macron. Et donc, il s'expose aujourd'hui à un risque d'une condamnation pénale qui peut aller jusqu'à 2 ans d'emprisonnement. Voilà. Il est serein parce qu'il n'y avait aucune intention de faire. Et notre client fait partie des centaines de milliers de personnes utilisant ce terme-là. J'ai dit centaines de milliers parce que je pourrais parler même de millions de personnes qui ont tweeté et retweeté sur les réseaux sociaux toute la thématique et toute la problématique de cette histoire qui peut être considérée rocambolesque.
Cuba is bracing for the arrival of Category 5 Hurricane Melissa, expected to hit the island's eastern region on Tuesday night, October 28th. Let's listen into the state meteorologist explaining the path of this hurricane.
Tenemos acá, pueden ver las temperaturas justo al sur de Jamaica y también al sur de la región oriental. Por tanto, Melissa es categoría 5 actualmente, debe debilitarse un poco cuando interacciones, sobre todo con Jamaica, las zonas montañosas de Jamaica, pero vean las aguas, una vez que salga nuevamente a los mares al norte de Jamaica, puede nuevamente ganar un poco más de fuerza justo antes de llegar al sur de la región oriental. Por tanto, es un huracán muy peligroso y representa un peligro latente ya para la región oriental. Durante el día de hoy y mañana tendremos, por supuesto, las últimas jornadas de preparación ante la llegada de
President Miguel Diaz-Canel has convened the National Defense Council to ensure timely evacuations from flood-prone areas. Let's listen into the president.
Zonas de inundación, aguas abajo de presas, micropresas, todo eso hay que protegerlo. Todo esto haciéndolo a tiempo. Es muy importante proteger la población, pero también proteger los bienes de la población.
In Holguin province, workers secured the Providencia Solar Park built to withstand winds of up to 200 kilometers per hour. Meteorologists warn that while the storm may weaken slightly over Jamaica, it could regain strength before making landfall in Cuba. Hurricane warnings have been issued for Granma, Santiago de Cuba, Guantanamo, and Holguin provinces as Melissa's maximum winds reach 265 kilometers per hour.
Well, we inherited a huge mess in relation to pretty well all departments in government, and that includes the Home Office. If you take the issue of asylum hotels, for example, we had years under the previous government where they didn't process claims. So tens of thousands of people didn't have their claims processed. They were then housed in hotels. That was the policy of the last government. There were 400 at the height of it. It's now about 200. I'm determined that we will close those hotels. We're processing the claims much more quickly, and where people have got no right to be in our country, we're removing them at a higher rate than best part of a decade. So we're taking the action.
The British Prime Minister has said that he was determined to close hotels hosting asylum seekers and blamed this previous government for a huge mess left behind. Starmer has reacted to the situation. Let's listen into what he has said. Now we move on to our next we stay on this news. Meanwhile, the Turkish Prime Minister has stated that Home Office was now processing asylum claims much quicker, adding that his government was removing those who do not have the right to remain in the UK more efficiently than anyone in the past decade. King Charles has unveiled a memorial dedicated to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender military personnel, marking his first official engagement in support of the LGBTQ+ community. The government-funded open letter memorial is designed to honor those currently serving and commemorate veterans affected by the British military's ban on LGBT officers, which was lifted in 2000. This was 33 years after male homosexuality was partially decriminalized in England and Wales. A bronze sculpture at the memorial resembles a crumpled freestanding letter containing words from personal messages that were used as evidence to incriminate individuals. The unveiling of the memorial follows recommendations from an independent investigation commissioned by the British government. The investigation reported systematic abuse, including sexual assault and dismissal of LGBT service members. The government has offered finance redress of up to $93,947 to those impacted. Now we move on. The UN rights chief has warned that the Sudanese city of El Fasher was in an extremely precarious situation, with the likelihood of ethnicity-motivated violations and atrocities rising after paramilitary forces claimed control. UN Humanitarian Chief Tom Fletcher sounded the alarm amid reports of civilian casualties and forced displacement in the capital city of North Darfur State. The RSF has been laying siege to El Fasher for nearly 18 months in a bid to take control of the Sudanese army's last stronghold in the vast western region of Darfur. The fighting has trapped at least 250,000 civilians and forced hundreds of thousands of others to flee their homes. He has also called for an unimpeded humanitarian access and safe passage for all civilians escaping the fighting. Now we move on to our next news. Police in Montenegro have detained dozens of Turkish and Azeri nationals following a weekend of violence in the capital city of Podgorica. The violence was triggered after a Montenegrin man was stabbed by a group of Turkish citizens. The incidents occurred on Saturday night outside a cafe after a verbal altercation. Just yesterday, local residents vandalized vehicles with Turkish license plates and forced some Turkish citizens to barricade themselves inside a casino. A Turkish-run restaurant in the center of Podgorica was also targeted. Meanwhile, police have detained a Turkish national and an Azeri man suspected of the involvement in the stabbing. Additionally, 45 other Turkish and Azeri citizens were detained for suspected immigration violations. Reacting to the incident, the Turkish Foreign Ministry has called on Montenegrin authorities to ensure the safety and rights of Turkish citizens in their country. This comes as Montenegrin government temporarily suspended the visa-free regime for Turkish citizens and called for intensive discussions with Turkey on visa agreement. Argentina has given President Javier Milei a midterm elections, with his La Libertad Avanza party securing over 40% of the national vote and expanding its presence in Congress. The victory, which followed months of economic turmoil and political resistance, allows Milei to push free market reforms, including sweeping deregulation and austerity measures. Supporters celebrated the results as a sign of progress, while critics warned of growing U.S. influence and the risks of deepening inequality. Here's now how the Argentinians feel about Milei's victory.
Por lo menos va a traer un poco de tranquilidad, me refiero a la incertidumbre de la que vivíamos, que es no saber qué iba a pasar. Había como muchas sensaciones raras si...
Porque tengo esperanza, eso es lo principal. Para atrás ya sabemos lo que pasó. Vamos a esperar, total faltan 2 años. Y si va bien, voy a seguir usándolo. Ahora si llegamos 2 años y estamos siempre ahí, no.
Esperar, no espero nada. No sé, pensé que esta vez la gente iba a ser un poquito más inteligente. Pero bueno, es mi pensamiento, ¿viste? Entiendo que cada uno, o sea, muy grande Argentina y cada uno tiene un pensamiento, pero...
With that, it's a wrap on the newsroom. Keep watching for more new breaking updates.